Hello everyone, welcome to another session of endodontics, and today we will be learning about the premolar and the maxillary molars. So maxillary premolars, I am giving you a simple example. This is a first primary premolar, and today we all know that usually when a premolar is excised we get two canals. So mostly the canal is under the buccal cusp and the palatal cusp. Just beneath it we will get the pulp horns of the canal anatomy. Also in above 56%, around 56% cases, you will have two separate canals. Also you will have two separate exits or portal of exits for the canals. That means in remaining cases you might find fused roots. They will not be separate roots, they will be fused roots, and you will have some sort of communication between the two canals. That means there will be a wide isthmus, or the canals will be joining somewhere in between, usually at the middle 1/3 level. So what happens is we have to use this area as our access area. It is usually ovoid in shape. As we have seen in Black's classification, when we do a restoration, these pits and fissures are involved, but this design is mesio distal in relationship, or it goes from side to side. But in this case the ovoid shape of the axis will be bucco-palatal or bucco-lingual, whatever we are easy to say. I have placed two dots here. These two dots are usually representing that we have to limit ourselves, our access opening within this limit. We are not supposed to go beyond the palatal slope of the buccal cusp and the facial slope of the palatal cusp. We are not supposed to go beyond this. Our access should be limited here. For today's preparation, I am using a long carbide. This is number 2. That means it is a carbide burr with a long shaft, or Allen burr we can say. We are using it. When we use it with a certain angle, we still have the visibility. If we are using shorter shanks, that means it overshadows the occlusal table and the visibility is limited. So we might compromise on the tooth structure. So let's start with this and let's see how the access opening is usually done. For beginners, I must say the access opening should always begin from the central pit. You can see this central area. We should go in deep from here, followed by, when we go deep and we find a drop, we have to change our burr. We have to go into a long conical burr, that means a cylindrical burr with a tapered design, or we have to use a non-end cutting burr, that is carbide endo Z burr. We can go with that and it will help us in refining the areas. Whenever you get any tooth that has got carious lesion that is involving the pulp, any carious lesion that is involving the pulp, we should always clean the caries first. That will help us in assessing the amount of remaining tooth structure, and it will also tell us the prognosis of the tooth, if it is subgingival or not, or there is something that is unseen during the x-rays or diagnostic part. So always clear the caries first and then only enter the pulp. This is an intact tooth when I'm using it, and I am sure that it will help you in understanding the access cavity of the premolars. I am going in deep between the I got a dip here. Usually what happens is when you find a dip in the tooth, in most cases of premolars, we might mistake the pulp horns as canal orifices. We have to be very clear about it that canal orifices are different and pulp horns are different. So what we will do is we will make sure that the entire prep is done neat and clean and we can expose the pulp horn. Make sure we do not hurt the pulpal floor. With the DG16, I am just getting inside the softest part and trying to assess what I have gained. So this is one of the pulp horns here, just beneath here, and I have to look out something here. Okay. I hope everybody remembers this is a TF22 burr, okay, and it will help us reach here just beneath the pulp horn here and here. So from the cuspal tip here we are going almost 6 mm inside till here, because this is the area, that means the cervical 1/3 of the premolar, it has the pulp horns. This area is the last, just above the CEJ. This area has pulp horns, so we have to expose these pulp horns with the help of TF22 burr. You can see the limitation. When we are working, the occlusal table is not seen at all. So preferring a canal, that is a burr that is longer shank, will always help. Something like this, it will help us. This is a non-end cutting burr, and I'll try to remain within this area of ovoid shape that we have marked. I just want to show again how a carbide burr give us more vision. And buccally also, it gives us more vision where we are working. and we are using the burr in upstroke motion or occlusally, so that we have more control over the enamel part. Similarly here, I am just undermining the crust, and you can see I have got good amount of removal. And just being slow is not wrong. We have to be very cautious about saving a lot of tooth structure that is available. So let us explore it again and see if we have de-roofed the structure. This preparation, one canal is almost here, and we have to see just here that how good we are cleaning it up. We can get one pulp on here. Can you see this? This is one of the pulp horns. But this is not the orifice. We have to extend this entire preparation here also, so that it becomes neat and clean. I am using the outer diameter or the diameter of the round burr towards the shank to remove this roof. Can you see this? The orifice has been exploded. In certain cases, you might also get 3 canals. This is a very rare thing, but it is also called mini molar. So you have to be very careful while you are examining the radiograph. Always take a good opinion from a colleague, because sometimes what happens is we only look out for 2 canals because of the habit of looking out for 2, but there might be a possibility of an extra canal. It is very rare, but yes, cases have been documented. Right now, we have a good access to the orifices, but the entire access looks very limited. For beginners, this is a small cavity, and it is practically impossible to attain something of this size, because we are uh, actually doing the access opening under microscope, and I am able to visualize everything. For you, I would believe marking these points and keeping yourself within these points will help you give a better result. Uh, for this prep, I am also showing you how to use ultrasonic tips to improve the access cavity, and I will show you how to use an endo-Z burr to improvise on the wall shape and finish. When access openings are done, there it is supposed to be slightly diverted towards the occlusion, so it helps in getting a cavity shape that assists in doing temporization, and usually it is helpful. In today's world of minimally invasive dentistry, more straightened up or smaller cavity access are suggested, but uh, when we are going for very minimally invasive dentistry, lot of equipment and diagnostic tools are used like CBCT to plan a minimally invasive part. Your training or your skill has to be very high to do minimally invasive dentistry and preparations, and definitely good amount of illumination and magnification with microscope. These are the tools that are minimum required for doing limited dentistry. So I would suggest do not jump into magnification immediately, but start with loops, and you can enhance your skill slowly and steadily. And after a certain point of time, when you are comfortable with magnification, you should always go for magnification instruments like microscopes, dental microscopes. I am also showing you how to use ultrasonic tips here. This is a Start X tip from Dentsply. I am using this tip. It usually helps us in removing extra dentine part. See this? And it enhances the shape of the excess that we have done. Sometimes some dental stones are available, or fine denticles are there on the floor of the cavity. So this instrument helps me immensely in removing them very slowly. I use it for a very short period of time, followed by a break, and then we use it again. So it's a good instrument that provides a lot of information more also, that there is no hidden canals under the dentine or dentine triangle. When we are doing it practically in a patient, things are very different. This is a model, and I need to reverse everything. From a clinical standpoint of view, understanding the anatomy is important, and where to do the prep is important. The ultimate aim of this presentation, or we say module, is to learn how to do lesser mistakes. It is during the prep itself, you can use sodium hypochlorite for irrigation purposes. This is the axis cavity that we have achieved, and mostly you will have two canals here, so no overhanging things, and the canal is just exactly above palatal the palatal cusp is directly above the pulp horn. Here also the pulp horn is directly above, pulp horn is directly beneath the cusp. We have to understand that palatal canal is bigger and has more volume than comparison to the buccal canal. But in my clinical experience, I have learned that when you are doing a case, mostly buccal canals are slightly longer, maybe 0.5 or 1 mm, or if you have achieved, if there is no adhesion, then only what I'm saying, you should understand that these are small clinical tips that will help you. When the irrigation is done, from this stage onwards, and lot of necrotic pulp is removed, you can have a good range of preparation. Small denticle is here. I'm trying to remove it, or maybe a part of excess prep that I am doing here. It is present. I wish to show you more on maxillary teeth. So here is an example. We have to keep our prep between the mesiobuccal cusp, the tip of the mesiobuccal cusp, the tip of the palatal cusp, and the tip of the distobuccal cusp. We can see these three things. So on their slopes, we have to mark 3 points, and we have to keep our cavity within this. This is usually a smoothened triangle or a rhomboidal shape that we achieve during practice time, and you can see this oblique ridge. This oblique ridge, you have to always secure it. There are no structures behind it, so none of the pulp chambers you will find, or no entities of the pulp will be found beyond the oblique ridge. So you have to save the oblique ridge, you have to save this marginal ridge and the mesiobuccal cusp. You have to save all this while doing a preparation. I am showing you something that is how an ideal access opening will be in a maxillary molar. These are typical maxillary molar kind of preps that have been prepared for training purposes by certain companies. These are 3D models of ideal teeth. So I have chosen this point because when we are learning, it helps us in understanding what is ideal. So this is a palatal canal that we will get. It is usually the biggest. When there is an emergency case and patient wants to get a root canal treatment done, the patient understands the importance of root canal and wants to save the tooth. We have already confirmed the patient that root canal treatment will be done. Uh, the access opening should be focused on doing a uh, emergency opening so that the pain relief procedure starts for the patient. Usually, if the case is not for single visit or the patient wants to get the pain relief part but is not understanding root canal treatment thoroughly, then for pain relief purposes, whenever the access opening is done, the palatal canal will be achieved first. Let me show you how the burr angulation will be when you are doing a access opening. This is the central pit. Everybody understands? This is the central pit. This is the central pit. So you have to always start your access opening from this. I have already told you, in case the access opening is to be done through the caries, then remove the caries part first, and then you can start with the access opening or idealize the access opening. We have to start from the central pit. We have to start from the central pit. Here. So the burst point of dentistry in endodontics mostly is finding the MBT. It is a very fashionable thing taught by many teachers, or I would rather say lot of instructors show how to find out mesiobuccal canals, mesiobuccal 2 canal. But in my personal opinion, once all the 3 canals, basic canals, mesiobuccal, distobuccal and palatal have been found, then only lot of energy should be done to find out where the mesiobuccal is placed. The reason is when new dentists or the learning dentists spend lot of time in finding mesiobuccal canals, usually they spend more time, more energy, but better results can be provided while doing a larger amount of work, preparing the or doing the chemomechanical preparation of root of the found out root canals. So that will help you in major way. This is a palatal canal that you can see, the biggest one. In certain cases, 2 palatal canals have been found. This is a distobuccal canal that you can see here in middle. This, okay, it is usually straight in angulation. There is no usually nothing is there. This mesiobuccal is the most loved part by the dentist. So this mesiobuccal is here, and where to find a mesiobuccal 2 canal. So whenever you find a mesiobuccal 2 canal, it is just broad arbitrary line from the palatal and the mesiobuccal. And if in most areas, in most cases in my clinical practice, if I found a mesiobuccal, it is usually very close to the mesiobuccal, the original mesiobuccal 1. The mesiobuccal 2 is usually very close to it, but there is always a groove here, and if you do not find a mesiobuccal that is very close, you can always explore the groove and you can find a mesiobuccal 2 here. You can see the dot here, the small dot. This is a mesiobuccal tooth canal. When we will learn the uh, preparation part or the cleaning and shaping part of the module, I will show you how to start off with these canals. If you see, this is a simple triangular shaped cavity, but because of finding this, we have to enhance a lot of structure here. We have to remove lot of denting from here and it becomes a rhomboid shaped cavity. I'll show you another thing. There can be only 50% cases where this is straight. In about 30% cases it has been seen that there is a palatal curve to the palatal root. So if you have a curvature, you might have a curvature here in this root, and just do not do blunders. Always go slow and don't think that palatal canals are very straight. Don't think that. They are very uh, there are high chances of doing mistakes. Considering it is straight, they can be curved. You will find mostly mesiobuccal root and distal root fused, but in certain cases they are totally separate and no fusion has been seen. What about the second molar of the maxilla? It is almost similar. This is a natural tooth that I am using here. It has also shown secondary mesiobuccals, that means that MB2 have been found in certain cases, and in clinical practices they are found only with certain experience, and do not worry if you don't find them. Always with this module you are entitled to show me x-rays and send me IOPA images so that we can discuss even before we start the part. This is a palatal canal that you can see here. This is a palatal canal that you can see here. This is a discobuccal canal and mesiobuccal canal. Something very interesting happens clinically when you are doing diagnosis of maxillary molar. If uh, the patient is having pain on biting, but you could not find any crack or any caries, or there are no radiographic challenges that you are seeing, but still the patient says that I have pain while chewing it with my molars, you can consider that sinusitis can be one of the reasons. Also, when the tooth has periapical lesion, maxillary molars, patient can complain of sinusitis. Hope you are getting the point. Maxillary sinus and maxillary molars are closely related to each other, and they are part of the disease. Or if the sinusitis is present, molar tooth will be tender, and if there is some periapical lesion, then there can be signs of sinusitis in the patient. This is a upper 8 or maxillary third molar that I am showing. Usually it can have 3 canals, but in this case we have got a palatal and a mesial canal. You can see a slight teardrop shaped thing here. this is a enlarged canal. Okay, so that means the root will be bulbous, it will be of more volume, so you have to work out when you are doing upper 8 endodontic treatment. This is the dentinal map that we see. This is the dentinal map, and in this example I can show you clearly how these ultrasonic tips are used. Because this is a wide open cavity that you can see, I'll show you how it is used. It will make you understand why ultrasonics are important. You can see all the curves here in the dentine, all the small areas. When you use an ultrasonic, it smoothens it out like anything. It smoothens out, and it will help you in removing the weakened dent enamel also. These are weakened enamel rods that you can see, and they should not be present in a tooth when you are considering a root canal treatment. So just see how it removes weakened enamel rods. This will help you in accessing what kind of restorative material you have to plan. You have to tell the patient also the prognosis of the case. And understanding the anatomy will also help you. You can see there is a groove, so there can be a possibility that the roots are fused, or if they are not fused, there is a slight band of isthmus. Upper 8 teeth are famous for giving lot of anomalies. They are famous for giving lot of different or difficult canals. There have been cases of C-shaped, ribbon-shaped canals in upper 8s. Maxillary molars in certain cases have shown up to 7 canals. So do not worry, just finding 3 will help you. After that, take a deep breath and start off finding more canals if you suspect them. In maxillary molars, you should always look out for mesiobuccal canal, the mesiobuccal second canal. It has been proven that it is present in more than 97% cases if it is done under microscope or magnification. So I am not asking you to spend more time finding mesiobuccal canals, but always spend more time doing a good access opening, a limited access opening, and it will help you in what you say. It will help you if you do lot of extracted cases. That means during this module, if all the participants are promising me to do a certain amount of cases during the mentorship period on your own. I'm not saying just the assessment that I give you and you have to do that only. If you are doing by your own willingness, if you are trying to do more cases, more extracted teeth, then you will be surprised to see that lot of anatomy uh, is different from what is given in the books and what you find clinically. Do more cases, and I'm there to mentor you for another 10 sessions or 10 modules, 10 weeks. So let's pray to God that whatever treatment we give to the patients, it helps them and it heals them. Thank you for now. Bye. I would see you in the next session. The next module will include minimally invasive access opening for mandibular molars and premolars. Why premolars can be nightmares, and I will definitely show you certain teeth that have been treated with certain beautiful anatomies from inside in the next session. Just wait for the next video. I'll post it very soon. Bye bye and take care.